Okay, so good afternoon, guys. So welcome to module number 4, which is the selection. So last time we discussed yung recruitment. So for today, we are going to proceed with the selection process. So by the way, what is this selection nga ba? Selection pertains to the steps involved in choosing people. And by the way, it's choosing the right people, okay, who do have the right qualifications to fill a current or a future job opening. So why do I mention right, no? Because here in the selection process, we are choosing the right people with the right qualification that would match to the employee or the potential employee that we are looking for. It is also said that selection is the process of identifying an individual from a pool of job applicants with the requisites, no, with the requisite qualifications and competencies to fill jobs in the organization. And this is an HR process that helps differentiate between those who are qualified and unqualified applicants by applying some various techniques. So to separate those qualified and non-qualified, we do selections. And of course, syempre, we use several techniques on how we could separate those who are qualified from non-qualified. Okay, the term selection comes with the connotation of placing the right person in the right job. Now, in HR, they always say that we cannot put square pegs in round holes, no? So, ibig sabihin lang talaga, we cannot put the wrong person to a job, no? We have to select the right person for the job. Okay? Sir, is that possible? Yeah. Is that really possible? Yes, of course. Bakit? Because the job already have a requirements. They already have a set specifications as to what characteristics or skills or talents that a person should have. So that's why ang ginagawa na lang natin dito is that we look for the persons who possess, okay, who possess that qualifications that the job is looking for. That's why in selection, no, sinabi din, it's a process wherein we use various strategies. Okay, we use various strategies to help those recruiters to decide which applicants is best or suited for the job. Now, there are 5 distinct aspects of the selection process, and dapat you should be familiar with it as an HR students, no, or even other courses, no. So the first one is criteria development. So in the selection, guys, it is a must to develop criteria. We cannot select the most qualified or fit applicants if we don't have any criteria. Kaya nga sabi, all individuals involved in the hiring process should be properly trained on the steps for number 1, interviewing. Then, including developing criteria, reviewing resumes, and developing interview questions and weighing candidates. No? Siyempre, kailangan talaga marunong manimbang. So the first aspects to selection is planning the interview process, which includes criteria development. Sir, what do we do in criteria development? Literally, we set criteria. How are we going to select without criteria? I don't think that will be possible. Criteria development means determining which source of information will be used and how those sources will be scored during the interview. These criteria should be related directly to the job analysis and job specification. This is the very reason kung bakit na-highlights natin last time, no, in our discussion na importante yung job analysis. Okay? Kasi nga, we break down the job. Okay? Kaya gano'n siya ka-importante. Okay? In fact, some aspects of the job analysis and job specifications may be the actual criteria. It is possible. In addition to this, yan, things like personality, cultural fit, which would also be part of the criteria development. No, bakit? Bakit kasama pati si personality? In any job, guys, believe it or not, personality is a must. Sabi nga kung minsan, uh, you may not be the brightest, but you do have the very best personality for the job. Diba? Meron dyan, hindi naman ganun kagaling, pero ang galing ng kanyang personality. Kaya niya mag-blend kahit kanino. Diba? Ganun. Or, yun nga, yung cultural fit. Yeah. So this process usually involves discussing which skills, abilities, and personal characteristics are required to be successful at any given job. Now, simply we have to discuss this. No? What are the skills needed for this one? Oh, sabi ng isa ganito, sabi ng isa ganito. So let's collaborate. Let's collaborate. Para saan? Para nang sa ganon, we can develop the right criteria for the applicants that we're looking for. And by developing the criteria before reviewing any resumes, the HR managers or managers can be sure that he or she is being fair in selecting people to interview. Now, I like this part. No, bakit? Kasi guys, it is very true that once you do have a first-hand information about the resumes, about the content of it, it will affect your decision. It will affect how you set criteria. So it is really a must na talagang blank tayo. Okay? We don't know any of the applicants. We haven't read any resume bago tayo mag-set ng criteria. Okay? Para ano tayo? Para objective tayong lahat when we set the criteria para sa ating selection process. Number 2, pagka nakaset na yung ating criteria, number 2 is the applications and resume review. Ito na, dito pa lang tayo papasok. Once we already set the criteria, saka pa lang tayo mag-re-review ng mga resume. Okay? People have different methods of going through this process, but there are people, okay, there are also programs that we can use. Yan. Just search, sabi nga, keywords in resumes and narrow down the number of resumes that must be looked for and reviewed. So, depende na yan sa inyo. Okay? Pero, for me, no, I will go pa rin dun sa manual, no? Sa manual review ng resume. Kasi in that way, talagang mai-scan mo siya. Maiisa-isa mo siya. Okay? The next part will be the interview. Now, ano ba mas okay? One-on-one or a panel interview? Yan. Siyempre, depende na yan sa ano, no? Depende na yan sa posisyon. Pero siyempre, if it is one-on-one, less worry siguro or less stress para sa interviewing kasi isa lang yung mag-i-interview. Okay? So, less pressure din probably. Yan. Pero I'm not saying naman na pangit kapag panel, no? Kasi actually, mas maganda nga yun. Eh? Mas maraming pwede magtanong sa'yo. Yan. So, after the HR manager or the managers have determined which applications meet the minimum criteria, minimum lang muna, he or she must select those people to be interviewed. Now, most people do not have time to review 20 or 30 candidates, so the field is sometimes narrowed even further with a phone interview. So kung minsan, ganun ginagawa talaga. Okay? Hindi na nila padadaanin pa ng in-person interview, sisimulan lang nila with phone interview. Kapag sa phone interview pa lang, medyo ligwak na, hindi ka na makakarating doon sa sa kumbaga next level of interview. Okay? Or let's say you pass. Okay? Let's say you pass the interview. Okay? Ano yung susunod na gagawin? The next one is test administration. Yan. Yan. So dito, maraming klase ng test na pwedeng gawin. Siyempre, hindi nawawala yung physical test. Siyempre. And yung medical, hindi nawawala yan. Personality, in most cases, kailangan talaga yan. And cognitive test. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, a drug test is a must, o lalo na ngayon. So, ibig sabihin, dito sa part na to, sa part number 4, test administration, all kinds of tests will be administered. Okay? Yan. Sabi nga, some organizations perform reference check as well and credit reports. Yan. So, depende naman yan. Pero sa atin, wala namang masyadong ganun. Number 5 is syempre, kung pasado na siya sa interview, so the next one will be making the offer. So the last step in the selection process is to offer position to the chosen candidates. Yan. Development of an offer via email or letter is sometimes a more formal part of this process. Compensations and benefits will be defined as well in the offer. Now, this is an example nung sa 5 na binanggit ko. Ito, yan. Yung 5 distinct aspect of the selection process. So, tulad nito, number 1, yan. Criteria development. So, understand the KSAO. Determine sources. Develop scoring. Importante scoring. And then, create an interview plan. So, this one is for the application and resume review. This one is the interview proper. Test administration. Then, syempre, andun na yung selection nun. And then, making an offer. Okay, so yan yung dadaanan natin. Now, in criteria development and review, resume review, before we begin, diba, resumes and applications must have a clear idea of a persons we want to hire for the position. Dapat malinaw na yun. Since the job or the positions already have the qualification, so you have to bear in mind na dapat ay ito hanapin mo. Huwag kang masyadong malito or baka masyado kang ma-excite dun sa laman ng resume. Baka mamaya, the applicant is too good for the position. Okay, masyado namang mataas ang kanyang qualifications para doon sa position. Okay, so titignan natin yan. So obviously, the job specifications will help us to know the bare minimum or the minimum qualifications. Yan. Siyempre, education is a must. Sa atin, laging hinahanap, college graduate, no? And then, a year of experience. Sabi nga ng iba, paano magkakaroon ng experience kung hindi mo kayo hired? Mga ganun. So, however, additional criteria might include, depende kasi yan sa posisyon, so pwedeng aside from educational level and years of experience, ay meron pang iba. Okay? Meron pang iba na qualifications na hanapin. So yung KSAO na binanggit ko kanina, that is knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, okay, or attributes required to perform a job. Now, in the criteria development, the following should be considered. HR professionals and managers develop criteria for hiring as well as interview questions before reviewing any resume. So ano daw dapat? Una, develop a criteria for hiring. Pangalawa, yung interview question should also be set before any resume, before you review any resume. Why? Again, it will affect your decision. Doing this allows for a streamlined process with specific guidelines already set before reviewing a resume. Mahirap mag-review nang wala pa tayong definite na criteria na gagamitin. Okay? So, by setting criteria ahead of time, the hiring team may clear a good picture of exactly what qualifications that they are looking for in an applicant. Okay, yun ang maganda ron. So, with this, we can move forward to the selection process. Medyo magiging mas madali para sa atin yung magiging selection. Now, next is about validity and reliability. In testing, validity and reliability is a must. Validity refers to how useful the tools is to measure a person's attributes for a specific job opening. Tools may include any of the following: resume scanning software, reference check, cognitive ability, tests, work samples, etc. So marami kasi tayong pwedeng gawin. Okay, marami tayong pwedeng gawin. Kasi we have to validate whether this person's attribute is legit or not. Alam nyo, may mga cases na may applicants na nag-submit ng napakagandang resume, napakagandang credentials, and then it turns out na hindi pala sa kanya yun. It turns out na ito ay kinuha niya lang ng kinuha sa internet. Edited lang lahat. So nagpanggap lang siya. Ayun, ano nangyari? When they found out na ganun yun at hindi talaga valid yung mga sinabit niya, right then and then, tinanggal siya sa trabaho. Why? Because you're a fake. You may be doing good, di ba? As to performance. Kaya lang, ang problema nga, hindi mo naman kasi qualification yung ipinasa mo. You may be qualified to do the job. You may have the skills, pero may loko ka pa rin. Okay, ayan. So, some others like biographical information blank. Ayan. Weighted application forms. So, yan yung ibang mga pwede natin gawin. Okay. Next is yung reliability. So, reliability refers to the degree in which other selection techniques yield similar data over time. So, example nga daw, ask the same interview questions of every applicant for the project management position and the right answer always yields similar. Yun. May ganon. May ganon. No? Talagang kahit sino tanungin mo, yung magiging sagot nila is similar with one another. So, ibig sabihin, talagang that's a very good question. And it is really a valid question, a reliable question para makita natin yung how fit an applicant is. Next is a fit issue. So fit includes, okay, not only the right technical expertise, education, and experience, but also fit in company's culture. Ito naman yung sinasabi natin kanina. You may be good, you may have the qualification, pero hindi ka naman nagmamatch o hindi ka nag-fit doon sa culture. So, mahihirapan ka rin makibagay. Or probably you would say na, ay, ayoko ng ganito. Hindi ko kayang atimin to. Something na ganon. Just an example lang. So, if a potential candidate is not interested in long-term career growth, he or she might not be deemed an appropriate or appropriate strategic fit with an organization. Okay? Not interested in long-term career growth eh. So, gusto niya talagang pa-try-try na, mga ganon. So, hindi talaga siya pwede doon. Lalo na if the plan of the organization is to build for a long-term career growth. Okay? So in today's generation, most people are required to work within teams. So if you are not a team player, you don't belong. You are not fitted. Okay? Kung ikaw talagang you prefer to work alone, so find a job that matches your personality or your culture na gusto mo solo rider ka. Okay? Company is structured so that there are marketeers, accountants, developers, and many other working on one product at a time. Now, about reviewing resume, so once we have developed our criteria for a specific job, we can now begin the review process. So, mas maganda sana kung ang magre-review nito, guys, ay isama natin si manager. Okay? O kahit yung ano na lang, immediate officer na lang. Okay? All hiring decision makers may review resumes list and resume list the people they would like to meet in persons and then compare the list. Now, ibig sabihin, upon reviewing, pipili lang sila. If they're impressed with your resume, ayan, may chance na ma-interview ka. So, kung they don't see your resume, an appealing one, or wala silang nakitang qualifications na hinahanap nila, so wala. Ano yun? We will call you, sir. No, don't call us, we call you. Kanya yan. So obviously, much of the process will depend on the organization's size and type of jobs. None of this process can be done fairly without setting first the criteria for the job. Hindi talaga pwede. You have to set it first. Okay? Yeah. Um, okay. So when looking at resume, to determine whom to interview, a manager should be concerned with the concept of disparate impact and disparate treatment. Okay? Desperate treatment or desperate impact. So, desperate impact is unintended discrimination. Take note, unintended discrimination against protected group as a whole through the use of a particular requirement. While desperate treatment in hiring might include not interviewing a candidate because of one's perceptions about the candidate's age, race, or gender. So, whether ito ay intended or unintended discrimination, we have to, as much as possible, if we can avoid it, let's avoid it kasi that will be unfair. Diba? So, katulad na lang nito, desperate impact is unintended discrimination against a protected group as a whole through the use of a particular requirements. For example, ito ay nangyayari. Before, sa mga factory, no, mga factory worker, ang hinahanap nila, they give more emphasis and chance kapag ang religion mo ay Iglesia ni Cristo. Bakit? Kasi ang Iglesia ni Cristo guys ay hindi sumasali sa union kasi bawal sa simbahan. Yun. Kaya yung iba tuloy, they prefer. Kung nakita, uy, Iglesia ni Cristo, okay, may qualification ba? Okay, pwede na yan. Barely minimum. Sige, gets. Ganon. Diba? So, let us try to avoid those kinds of discriminations. To, yung desperate treatment, ganun din naman. 'Di ba? Bakit? Masyadong bata pa. Masyado nang matanda. Ay, ano, ayoko niya, black. Mga ganun, 'di ba? So, let us try. Let us try to avoid that. So, the last considerations in the hiring of internal versus external candidates. So, internal candidates, someone who is already part of the organization. Si external naman, outside the organization. Okay, so we have here a comparisons about the advantages and disadvantages of having an internal candidates and external candidates. So sa internal, we have required contributions of current staff. Then, can be cost effective kasi nga less hassle for us para sa recruitment. So nakatipid tayo ng malaki doon. Then, knowing the past performance of the candidate is a big thing kasi uy, galing pala niya, performer pala siya, 'di ba? Maganda ang performance, 'yun. So, sa external naman, syempre, bago, galing sa labas, new talent. Kumbaga, ano yan, new blood, fresh ideas, 'yun. So, because of that, there is also diversity. Yan. And new ideas and insights can be brought into the company. So, ito naman yung disadvantages. So, kindly, ano na lang siya, no? Pakibasa nyo na lang kasi ano naman siya, like sabi nga, can produce inbreeding which may reduce diversity. Siyempre, wala na bang bago? Ayan. So, kung minsan yung ideas, yung luma na ng baol. Bakit? Kasi nga walang bagong mukha, walang bagong blood, walang fresh blood. Ayan. Okay? Next is interviewing. Yan. Interviewing people costs us money. As a result, after candidates are selected, good use of time is critical to making sure the interview process allows for selections the right candidates. So we have unstructured and structured interview. Unstructured, questions are changed to match the specific applicant. So, ibig sabihin, pabago-bago talaga yung tanong para mag-match doon sa ating applicant. Unlike structured naman, there is now a set of standard questions based on the job analysis. So, one particular questions can be asked kung gaano kadami yung kung gaano kadami applicant. Yun. So, mas maganda rito kasi makikita mo na yung sagot nila, kung magkakalayo, o ba, pwede. Kung pare-pareho naman, okay din. Sabihin, consistent talaga. No? Pero siyempre, mas maganda sana kung iba-iba. Kasi that is what we're looking for. So while a structured interview might seem the best options to find out about a particular candidate, the bigger concern is that the interview revolves around the specific job. Oo, wala yung open question. Yan. So kumbaga, may limit. Yan. In a structured interview, the expected or desired answers are determined ahead of time, which allows the interviewer to rate responses and the candidate provides an answer. There are different types of interview, the traditional, the telephone, panel, which is, I find it really good, which is really nice. Information interview, meal interviews, group interview, video interviews, non-directive interviews. So ano pagkakaiba ng mga yan? So going back to number one, traditional. So this one is the normal interview, the normal type of interview. So we have the interviewer and the candidates. And then tanong, 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 tanong. Telephone interview, the same lang, kaya lang we do it via telephone. Okay? Tsaka ginagamit nato para pang shortlist. Oo. Kumbaga, teka, ganito takbo ng isip niya. Wag na natin paabutin pa yan dito sa sa in-person interview. Diyan pa lang ano na natin, kalusin, something na gano'n. Panel interview, yan, occurs when several people are interviewing one candidate at the same time. While this type of interview can be nerve-wracking for the candidate kasi nga talaga naman ang pressure nito. Okay? Mula ulo hanggang paa. Bakit? Ang dami. Ang dami. Sa isipin mo, kung halimbawa 5 sila, 5 nag-i-interview sa'yo. Okay? Information interview usually used when there is a specific job opening, but the candidate is exploring possibilities in a given career field. The advantage to conducting these types of interview is the ability to find great people ahead of a job opening. So, siyempre malalaman mo agad sino-sino yung mga qualified, kumbaga. And then, meal interview, the candidates to taken to a lunch or dinner for the interview. So, literal, kakain sila. Okay? Group interview, so there are 2 or more candidates interviewed at the same time. So, kumbaga, lahat kayo nandyan. Kung 5 kayo, lahat kayong 5 nandyan, then isa-isa na kayo tatanungin. So, kailangan magkadinigan. Okay? Then we have video interview. Tulad nga ginagawa natin yung pandemic, diba? To Gmeet o kaya naman ay Zoom. Non-directive interview or unstructured interview. So, dito guys, parang hindi naman siya interview, pero interview siya. Kumbaga, mas lighter yung tanungan, no? Yung questions talagang open-ended na pwede kang mag-open kasi nga medyo friendly ng konti ang dating. Okay? So, yan siya. Interview questions. So, they may ask situational interview. Minsan guys, ito maganda kasi para alam mo kung ano yung tumatakbo sa isip niya, how they are going to make a decision, etc. I remember one time, sa isa sa mga interview ko, sabi sa akin ng interviewer, okay, for example, sabi niya, for example, your mother is sick at dadalawa lang kayo sa bahay. Okay, so anong gagawin mo? Papasok ka ba o hindi? Yan. So ano sabi ko? Most likely, papasok ako. Why? Kasi una, I am going to assess first how's my mother? kung ano ba yung sakit niya. Kung lagnat lang at kaya niya yung sarili niya, kaya niya yung katawan niya, hindi well and good. Now, besides, I know my mother well, no? Sasabihin lang talaga to, lagnat lang to, no? Sige na, pasok ka na sa trabaho mo. So, yan mga ganyan, ina-assess nila yan in a situational interview. Para alam nila, when time comes, ano kaya ang gagawin mo. Okay? So, ganyan siya. Then, behavioral description interview. The candidate is asked questions about what he or she actually did in a variety of given situations. So, ito ang magsisilbing assessment niya. Okay, so may nangyaring ganito, ano ginawa mo? Nagkaroon ng gulo doon sa kanto, ano ginawa mo? Yan, nakimarites po. Okay, so yun na yun. So, yun ang tinitingnan niya. Now, be aware of the following. Halo effect or the reverse halo effect. This occurs when an interviewer becomes biased because of one's positive or negative traits a candidate possess. So, pinakamasamang pwedeng gawin ng practitioner, HR practitioner, is yung maging bias. Yung medyo may papaborons ka. Yung ayaw mo sa color niya, so ayaw, gano'n. Interview bias, yan. So, pareho lang naman halos. Contrast bias. So, in short, guys, be aware of the bias. No? Kasi dapat hindi talaga tayo maging bias. Kailangan tayo ay maging objective lang. Okay? So, paano nga ba yung mga biases na yan? So, i-demo yan sa inyo ng mga makakasama nyo guys na akala mo you're good, akala mo okay, yung pala hindi. Yan. So, ganun si bias. So, halimbawa, sabi nga nito, interview bias. It occurs in almost any interview situations. Interview bias is when an interviewer makes assumptions about candidates that may or may not be accurate. Yan. So, kasi iba yung iniisip niya, kaya nagkagano'n siguro. Pero hindi natin sigurado yan. Okay? So, contrast bias, yan. Cultural, non-verbal. Similar to me, ibig sabihin, medyo, talaga, yun. Pareho pala tayo. Ganyan yan. Next is interview process. So, interview process, once the criteria have been selected and interview questions developed, it is the time to start interviewing people. So, your interviewing plan rather, can determine the direction of the process. Okay? So, number one, recruit new candidates. Establish criteria, develop interview questions, and then set time for interviewing. Okay. So, ganyan. Yan, testing and selecting. So, major categories of tests like cognitive. So, testing the informations, yan. Or testing anong klaseng test kaya ba to? Not personal. Basta yun na yan. So, what are those major categories of tests? So, we have cognitive tests. Yan. Yan. Talino at understanding yan. Mga ganyan. So, personality test. Ayan, maganda yan. Yan lang, medyo maganda rin ang bayad niya. Kaya be careful. No? Okay. Cognitive ability tests can be measured reasoning skills, math skills, and verbal skills. Aptitude test measures a person's ability to learn new skills. So, maganda yun, no? They can learn new skills. Next is, okay. Aptitude test measures a person's ability to learn new skills. Aptitude tests can measure things such as mechanical aptitude, etc. Okay. An achievement test, personality test, job knowledge test, work sample test, lahat ng ito guys ay pwede mong gawin. Okay, bakit? Kasi yung itetest mo naman, multiple choice. So, okay lang. Okay, yeah. So what are those selection methods? So we have first clinical selection approach. Probably the most common selection method and involves at all who will be making the decisions. Then we also employ statistical methods. Yeah. And a multiple cutoff model o yung mga multiple regression, something like that. Okay. Okay, so tuloy tayo. Making an offer. So, sabi, oftentimes the decision is made to hire a candidate. HR professionals feel their job is finished. Yan. But making an offer to the chosen candidate can be equally as important as the interview process. Kasi kahit pumayag naman yan, yung rate naman, ganito, ganyan, ganyan. So may chance pa rin kasi na mag-back out. Yan. So ito naman, based on the range of salary you can offer, consider the following questions when making the offer to a candidate. Okay. So what is the scarcity of particular skill sets? What's the going wages, etc., etc. Okay. Meron pa ba? Oh, wala na yata ito. Ay, meron pa palang konti. Ayan. So once the offer has been made, it is reasonable to give the candidate some time to decide, but not too long, as this can result in losing other candidates should be candidate reject the job offer. Siyempre, kung may mas magandang offer sa kabila, why not, di ba? Ayan. Uh-huh. Oh, that's it. Yan. So, that's it for the selection. So, paki-check nyo na lang. Meron niyang kasabay na activity. Okay? So, that's it. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.